My name is Elias Crowe. This is the story of Eshiley Miller, a 14-year-old girl who lost everything and discovered that the greatest threat to her life was sleeping in the room next door. What you're about to witness is a tale of betrayal so calculated it took 17 years to execute, an obsession so twisted it claimed an innocent life, and a courage so extraordinary it came from a child who refused to become the next victim. Stay with me until the end, because you need to see how Eshiley Miller, at just 14 years old, outsmarted a killer. This isn't just a story of survival. This is a masterclass in resilience, intelligence, and the unbreakable will to seek justice when the entire world thinks the danger has already passed. The Miller house stood at the end of Maple Street in Maplewood, Ohio, a modest two-story home with peeling paint and a lawn that hadn't been mowed in weeks. Inside, the silence was heavier than it should have been. John Miller sat at the kitchen table, his coffee long cold, staring at his phone as work emails piled up like accusations. Across from him, Emma moved through the morning routine with mechanical precision, her eyes hollowed by exhaustion that sleep could no longer fix. Their 14-year-old daughter, Eshiley, watched them both from the doorway, her sharp eyes cataloging every unspoken word, every avoided glance. The marriage wasn't broken yet, but the cracks were visible to anyone who cared to look. John worked 12-hour shifts at the manufacturing plant. Emma managed accounts at a corporate office downtown. They passed each other like strangers in their own home, too tired to fight, too numb to reconnect. Eshiley had learned to read the temperature of a room before entering it, a survival skill children of struggling marriages develop early. But what none of them knew was that something had already been set in motion, something that had been waiting, patient and hungry for years. Suzy Harper appeared in Emma's life like an answer to a prayer she hadn't voiced. They met at a coffee shop near Emma's office, a chance encounter that felt orchestrated by fate itself. Suzy was warm, engaging, effortlessly charming. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves, her smile was disarming, and she had a way of listening that made Emma feel seen for the first time in months. "You look like you could use a friend," Suzy had said that first day, sliding into the chair across from Emma with 2 lattes in hand. Emma had laughed, surprised by her own honesty. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been there," Suzy replied, her eyes glinting with something Emma mistook for empathy. They began meeting regularly. Suzy had a gift for drawing out Emma's frustrations, her loneliness, her fears about the marriage. She listened without judgment, offered advice that always seemed to confirm Emma's worst suspicions about John. He wasn't present enough. He didn't understand her. He was taking her for granted. "You deserve better," Suzy would say, her voice soft and convincing. "You deserve someone who sees you." Eshiley noticed the shift immediately. Her mother started talking about Suzy constantly. "Suzy said this, Suzy thinks that." When Emma suggested that Suzy apply for an opening at her company, John barely registered the comment. He was too exhausted to question it. What Emma didn't notice was how carefully Suzy steered every conversation, how precisely she wedged doubt between wife and husband. But Eshiley noticed, and she wondered what kind of friend worked so hard to isolate someone from their family. The answer to that question would cost Emma her life. Suzy got the job within 2 weeks. She was competent, efficient, and quickly became indispensable to the team. More importantly, she became Emma's constant companion. They took breaks together, had lunch together, and after particularly long days, Suzy would suggest they grab coffee or a smoothie before heading home. "You need to take care of yourself," Suzy would insist, buying Emma her favorite iced coffee or protein shake. "You're always so stressed." Emma was grateful. She drank what Suzy offered, never questioning the slightly bitter aftertaste she attributed to new flavors or cheap ingredients. She didn't know that each drink contained carefully measured traces of a cardiotoxic compound, something slow-acting and nearly impossible to detect in standard screenings. Suzy had done her research. She knew exactly how much to use, how long it would take, and what the symptoms would look like. Heart palpitations, fatigue, shortness of breath, all easily dismissed as stress or overwork in a woman Emma's age. Emma started feeling unwell in the 3rd month. Her chest felt tight. She was exhausted all the time. She told John, but he was too buried in his own stress to truly hear her. She told Suzy, who urged her to see a doctor while secretly increasing the dosage. The body knows when it's dying, even if the mind refuses to believe it. Emma Miller died on a Tuesday morning in her office bathroom, collapsed on the cold tile floor with her phone still in her hand. The paramedics called it a massive cardiac event. The autopsy listed acute myocardial infarction as the cause of death. No one suspected foul play. Women in their late 20s don't get poisoned by their best friends. They just die sometimes, tragically and without warning. John Miller fell apart. He stopped going to work. He stopped eating. He sat in their bedroom for hours, holding Emma's clothes, unable to process that she was gone. Eshiley watched her father crumble and felt the ground shift beneath her own feet. Her mother was dead. Her father was disappearing, and she was 14 years old, trying to hold together a world that had shattered overnight. That's when Suzy stepped in. She attended the funeral, tears streaming down her face, playing the grieving best friend perfectly. She brought casseroles to the house. She sat with John while he cried. She helped Eshiley sort through Emma's things, offering comfort and support that seemed genuine. "Your mother loved you so much," Suzy told Eshiley, her hand warm on the girl's shoulder. "She would want you to be strong." Eshiley nodded, but something in Suzy's touch felt wrong. Something in the way she looked at John felt calculated. But grief does strange things to perception, and Eshiley pushed the feeling down. 6 months after Emma's death, John and Suzy began dating. 3 months after that, she moved in to the house on Maple Street, and the pattern began again. It started small. Suzy would make Eshiley special smoothies in the morning, packed with fruit and protein, she said. She'd insist Eshiley drink herbal tea before bed to help her sleep. She was attentive, caring, the kind of stepmother most teenagers would be grateful to have. But Eshiley started feeling sick. Her heart raced at strange times. She felt dizzy, weak, disconnected from her own body. At first, she thought it was grief manifesting physically. Then she thought it might be stress from school. Then she noticed the pattern. She only felt sick after consuming something Suzy prepared. The smoothies, the tea, the special meals Suzy made just for her. And she noticed something else. The way Suzy looked at her sometimes when she thought Eshiley wasn't paying attention. Not with motherly concern, but with cold calculation, like someone watching an experiment unfold. Eshiley was intelligent, observant, and she had learned early to trust her instincts. Those instincts were screaming now. She needed proof. The spy camera cost $43 and came in a package small enough to hide in her backpack. Eshiley set it up in the kitchen, disguised as a small clock on the counter, angled perfectly to capture the drink preparation area. Then she waited. For 2 weeks, she pretended to drink everything Suzy gave her. She'd take the smoothie to her room and pour it down the bathroom sink. She'd accept the tea and dump it in the houseplant when Suzy wasn't looking. She felt her strength returning as the toxin cleared from her system, and she watched Suzy's frustration grow. The camera captured everything. Suzy, alone in the kitchen at 6 in the morning, pulling a small vial from her purse. Suzy adding drops to the blender before making Eshiley's smoothie. Suzy stirring powder into the tea with practiced precision. Suzy checking over her shoulder to make sure no one was watching. Eshiley downloaded the footage onto a flash drive, her hands shaking, her heart pounding with something that wasn't poisoning, but pure visceral terror. She had proof, but she also had a problem. If she confronted Suzy directly, there was no telling what the woman might do. If she told her father, he might not believe her. He was too deep in his own grief, too dependent on Suzy's support. Eshiley needed help from someone with authority, someone who could act. She needed the police. Detective Marcus Cruz had worked homicide for 15 years, but something about the teenage girl sitting across from him in the interview room made his chest tight. She was composed, articulate, and terrified in a way that only someone truly in danger can be. She handed him the flash drive without preamble. "This woman killed my mother," Eshiley said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "And now she's trying to kill me." Cruz watched the footage 3 times. Each viewing made his blood run colder. The precision, the routine, the complete lack of hesitation. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, methodical murder. He called in his partner. They reviewed the footage together, documented everything, and began building a case. But Cruz knew they needed more than video evidence of someone adding an unknown substance to drinks. They needed to catch Suzy in the act, identify the substance, and connect it to Emma Miller's death. They had one shot to get this right. "We need you to go home and act normal," Cruz told Eshiley, his voice gentle but firm. "Can you do that for a few more days?" Eshiley met his eyes. At 14, she looked ancient. Whatever it takes. Cruz felt something crack in his chest. This kid had already lost her mother. She'd been living with her would-be killer for months, and now she was volunteering to walk back into that house and pretend everything was fine? "We'll have officers watching the house around the clock," he promised. "The moment we have enough, we move." Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. Suzy Harper was arrested at 7:15 on a Monday morning in the kitchen of the Miller house with a vial of cardiotoxic compound in her hand and Ashley's morning smoothie on the counter. 4 officers entered simultaneously, weapons drawn, shouting commands that shattered the morning quiet. Suzy didn't run. She didn't fight. She simply set down the vial, raised her hands, and smiled. "You clever little bitch," she said to Ashley, almost admiringly. John Miller stood in the doorway, his face white with shock, unable to process what he was seeing. His girlfriend in handcuffs, his daughter standing beside a detective, police officers searching his kitchen. "Dad," Ashley said quietly, "we need to talk." The interrogation room at Maplewood Police Department was small, windowless, and designed to be uncomfortable. Suzy sat across from Detective Cruz, her lawyer beside her, that same unsettling smile still playing at her lips. "Why did you kill Emma Miller?" Cruz asked, his voice flat and professional. "I didn't kill her," Suzy said. "Her heart gave out. Tragic, really." Cruz slid a photo across the table. Emma's autopsy report. Then another, the chemical analysis of the substance found in Suzy's vial. Then another, Eshiley's medical records showing elevated levels of the same compound. "We exhumed Emma's body," Cruz said quietly. "Advanced toxicology screening. We found it. We found all of it." Suzy's smile faltered. Her lawyer put a hand on her arm, but she shook it off. "He was supposed to be mine," she said finally, her voice cracking. "John was always supposed to be mine." Cruz leaned forward. "Tell me." And she did. It poured out of her in a confession that was part justification, part love letter, part manifesto of obsession. She'd loved John since high school. She'd watched him choose Emma, marry Emma, build a life with Emma. She'd waited for them to fail, but they hadn't. So she decided to help the process along. She engineered their meeting at the coffee shop. She manipulated Emma's insecurities. She poisoned her slowly, carefully, over months. And when Emma was finally gone, she stepped into the space she believed had always belonged to her. "And the daughter?" Cruz asked, his voice hard. Suzy's eyes went cold. "She was in the way. She was a child. She was an obstacle." The room went silent. Even Suzy's lawyer looked sick. "You killed one person and tried to kill a 14-year-old girl because you wanted her father," Cruz said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact too grotesque to fully comprehend. "People do worse for love," Suzy said. "That's not love. That's murder." The trial lasted 3 weeks. Suzy Harper was convicted on 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. The judge sentenced her to life without the possibility of parole. She showed no remorse. Detective Cruz attended the sentencing. He sat in the back of the courtroom and watched Eshiley Miller sit beside her father, holding his hand. John looked broken, aged a decade in a year. But Eshiley looked forward, her spine straight, her eyes clear. After the sentencing, Cruz found them in the hallway. "How are you holding up?" he asked Eshiley. She considered the question seriously. "I miss my mom every day, and I'm angry that it happened, but I'm here. We're here, and she's not going to hurt anyone else." Cruz nodded, his throat tight. "You saved your own life. You know that, right? What you did took incredible courage." "I didn't feel brave," Eshiley admitted. "I felt terrified." "That's what courage is," Cruz said. "Being terrified and doing it anyway." John Miller put his arm around his daughter's shoulders, and for the first time since Emma's death, Cruz saw something like hope in his eyes. "Thank you, Detective," John said, "for believing her, for helping us." Cruz shook his hand. "She did the hard part. I just followed the evidence." As they walked away, Cruz watched them go, father and daughter, survivors of a nightmare, walking toward whatever came next. It wouldn't be easy. Grief and trauma don't disappear with a verdict. But they had each other. They had the truth, and they had time. Eshiley Miller glanced back once, caught Cruz's eye, and nodded. A warrior's acknowledgement, a survivor's gratitude. Then she turned forward and kept walking. 6 months later, Detective Cruz received a letter. Inside was a photo of Eshiley at a science fair, holding a first-place trophy, her father beside her, both of them smiling. On the back, in careful handwriting, she'd written, "Still here, still fighting. Thank you for helping me survive." Cruz pinned the photo to his office wall, next to the commendations and the case files and the reminders of why he did this work. Some cases you solve, some cases haunt you, and some cases, rare and precious, remind you that justice isn't just about punishment, Sometimes it's about giving survivors the chance to keep living. The house on Maple Street was quiet now, but it was no longer heavy with secrets. The poison was gone. The truth had been spoken. And in the space where lies and obsession once lived, something fragile and new was growing. Hope, recovery, life continuing despite everything. The Miller family would never be whole again. Emma's absence was a wound that would never fully heal, but they were still here, still breathing, still fighting. And sometimes, in a world full of darkness, that's the closest thing to a happy ending anyone gets.